This morning, it's getting close to summer, but before then, a lot of kids will be preparing for final exams, which can be a very stressful time for students. So how can you be sure that your kids are getting the sleep they need heading into those tests? Dr. Stephen Hawkins, sleep specialist at Children's Hospital, is here to talk more about it. And we were just discussing in the break with my high schooler, my middle schooler, it seems as if the stress leads to less sleep, which makes testing harder, especially heading into finals.
It's absolutely a vicious cycle, and we make up for it during the day by doing things like taking naps when we can or using caffeine, and those are counterproductive. If you cut off caffeine at about 2 o'clock, then it's not still going to be in your system when you're finally able to go to bed. Hopefully you can fall asleep a little bit quicker. Using our bed as our study chamber is the big no-no.
And that is a very common thing for teenagers, even for college kids, as they use their bed to study in.
Right, and so if we trick our brain into thinking that the bed is our sofa where we watch TV, if it's the dining table where we eat lunch, or if it's our desk where we should be studying or working, our brain is going to get very confused about what to do when it actually is bedtime. And so getting into bed should be part of the bedtime routine, just like turning off all the screens, so that your brain doesn't think it's still daytime. Getting away from the work and the anxiety-producing things that you're doing, all of those are going to help you fall asleep quicker, make the most of the time that you do have, and get better sleep so that during the day you're not quite so draggy.
So let's talk about the weekends, because especially for kids who might stay up a little bit later on the weekends, is that going to mess up their cycle heading into finals? Can you stock up on some of that sleep on the weekend?
Absolutely. So this is a good time to think about it, because most of us do have a couple of weeks to prepare. Use the weekends not to stay up late, but to try to keep your good schedule. Get enough sleep now going into finals week so that you're better rested, and keep that schedule in the morning time, waking up at a similar time, not sleeping in until noon, but keeping that morning schedule so that on your final days, when you're waking up in the morning, getting that first dose of sunshine, you're ready to go.
So this applies to kids, middle school, high school, college, even for some adults. What about the anxiety of a test and not being able to sleep because you're anxious and your mind is busy?
And so that's super tricky. Again, it's a vicious cycle where the more sleep deprived you are, the more likely you are to act out and to feel anxious, to have that trouble. So much of that is planning ahead. Again, now is the time to come up with your schedule, and there comes a point where it's counterproductive to stay up later and later because you're not going to be able to remember it. And so if you've got your schedule down, you know that you've put in the time as best you can now, you've done your due diligence, you've done what you can, and at some point you've got to just let your time take over.
Do you think there are things that help, though, melatonin, some of the sleep apps or music or things that can help you fall asleep when you're stressed?
So the apps are very interesting because they do actually, there are several apps available for any different device you can think of that cut down on the blue light. The blue light is what the sunlight uses to tell, the sun's not trying to, but our brain interprets it as daytime. And there are apps that will gradually reduce that blue light in the evening and at bedtime, and we think that that could help, again, make it a little bit easier for your brain to shut off. But again, as far as the stress of test taking, so much of that is just planning ahead, making sure that you've done what you can to.
All right. Exercise as well? Does that help?
Exercise is a much better way to give yourself a booster in the day. Stopping, putting everything down, taking a lap around the block, getting that sunshine is a much better way.
And then you're nice and tired at night.
And then you're more likely to be tired at night.
Thanks so much for coming in. We appreciate it. Good to see you
so much.
as always. All right. Well, it is almost 8 o'clock.